I'm here with Leann, and Leann, you work on the QA team.
Correct.
What is it you do with that?
So on the QA team, I primarily focus on kernel bugs and kernel issues that come in. So as well as tracking kernel issues, I actually interface closely with the kernel team as well.
Okay, so what sort of kernel issues and things have you been working on in this UDS?
So this UDS, one of the big focuses was improving our upstream bug reporting process and relationship. So one of the big issues I saw with the previous Intrepid cycle was bugs would be reported to Ubuntu's kernel and Launchpad, and then the issue is that we don't actually forward those bugs upstream. So we were becoming somewhat of a bottleneck in terms of bugs being reported by our users and the upstream development communities not seeing them. So one of the big issues that I wanted to focus on is how we can improve that, and one of the things I worked with the kernel team, or actually got the kernel team to agree to, is providing an upstream vanilla kernel package for our end users to install and run. And so then once they discover that they have a bug in the Ubuntu kernel, the next step is to educate our users to then try the vanilla kernel upstream and then work with them to properly forward their bug upstream if they can.
Is there a technical thing about integrating the bug trackers better?
Yes, there is. So Launchpad now has a plugin which the upstream kernel used Bugzilla, so they can actually install this Launchpad plugin. So then you can have a somewhat seamless interface between communicating with the Launchpad bug tracker, and those comments that you report there will also be shown in the upstream bug tracker. So I think that will be a big improvement, and I know there's been conversations going on between the upstream Bugzilla maintainers and our Launchpad people here.
So what are the major sort of challenges in your job as a whole as sort of kernel QA person?
So the biggest challenge is actually providing quality bug reports to the Ubuntu kernel team, and that is by no means easy from a bug reporter's viewpoint. Not everyone can be expected to be an expert in terms of kernel bugs and reporting kernel bugs. So one of my biggest hurdles is just educating our end users how to properly file good bug reports, including, hardware information, error logs, making sure that they're testing the latest kernel we have available. So it's just a matter of making sure people know where the docs are online and how to properly gather the information from their system. But we have come up with utilities to make this easier. So for example, people who are comfortable running commands from the terminal, they can type in Ubuntu-bugs-p and then the package name, and in the kernel's, for the kernel it's Linux. So, and that will automatically gather any log, debug information, and file a Launchpad bug report. So we're trying to make this process a bit easier for people.
Because I was going to say, it's easy to look at a crash in a graphical application or something like that. You can see, you click on something and it disappears.
Right.
Whereas looking at a kernel problem is a very fundamental part of the
Yeah,
system.
so some of the easier, not necessarily easier, but for example, if someone sees a kernel panic or kernel oops, and if they're not necessarily able to capture that in their dmessage output or a log file, we're even happy if they can take a digital photo of what their screen is showing and then attach it to their bug report. It's extremely helpful, because if you're just reporting my system freezes or my wireless connection drops out, and if you have no other traceable output for us to kind of narrow down where the root cause is, it's kind of a needle in the haystack.
So how do issues get into you or get into your attention? Do they come through Launchpad, or are you looking at all the bugs that are submitted against the kernel and trying to work out if they're relevant?
Yeah, so actually the volume of bugs coming in and the volume of bugs that are open is a little bit overwhelming, but I always make a point to review any new kernel bugs that come in against the Linux package and any other relating packages like Linux backreport modules, Linux restricted modules. So I try to keep my finger on the pulse of new bugs coming in, and then also I always subscribe to any bugs that I touch. So if any responses come in, I'm able to see who's responding at least to our inquiries for new information. There are tricks that we use to actually filter out bugs, so you can use tags in Launchpad to say tag your bug as a kernel oops, or if you know that there's a fix upstream, you can tag it as bite size. So there are ways that we kind of work around this huge volume of bugs coming in, so we can produce a smaller subset of bugs to work on. And then part of the relationship that I use with the kernel team in general is any bugs that I triage or I go through that I think are of a high priority for them to look at, or possibly have a fix upstream that they can easily cherry pick and close that bug report. I generate a weekly kernel bug list for them to look at, and I think that they find that really useful within the past development cycles of having a more tangible subset of bugs to work on and look at.
And are they entirely responsible for fixing them, or do you?
They're not held accountable to fix every single bug on that list, but they give their best effort to tackle most of them. And from the statistic that I saw from say Intrepid's release cycle, they were closing well over half of the bugs that I would put on that list, and of the overall number of bugs that were fixed, I would say almost 30% were filtered through that list. So it's actually a nice way to measure, how effective this list is for them.
Do you ever patch stuff yourself?
Every once in a while. I'm not always the most confident with, very large patching, but, for small quirks like adding new vendor device IDs for a new piece of hardware to a driver, I'll go ahead and create a patch for that. Or there's some known fixes that I've seen go in, for example, for some systems who have trouble rebooting. There's some reboot quirks you can add. So I'll feel comfortable making patches for those types of issues, and then attach them to the bug report, ask the user to test them out, and also nudge the kernel team to pull in the patch to our Ubuntu kernel, and then also make sure it gets upstream as well. Okay,
cool. So what are your sort of hopes for this UDS? What's the main thing you want to take away?
So the main thing that I love about UDS is actually the interaction with other groups and other teams, and not only that, but within our own QA team, I get to have discussions with people in certification and hardware testing and how we can improve testing the kernel and making sure we're avoiding regressions, things like that. And then also being able to work face to face with the kernel team, so I can lobby things like the vanilla upstream kernel, and it's easier to work together face to face. Sometimes you can get a lot more accomplished. So just being able to network with people, and then going forward to improve my idea of improving this upstream bug reporting process is kind of what my goal is for the next release.
Cool. And is this your first UDS?
It is my.
That many you've got to
Yeah, I've had a few. It's I want to say three or four. Yeah.
And how's this one compared with the others?
They're always great. The facility here has been nice, and they're all equally as good.
Not too many cookies.
No.
Excellent. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon and the event this evening.
Yeah.
And thank you for talking to me.
Great. Thanks.